Hello, friends and family, soul family. It's Sophia, and this is my gorgeous friend, Ombaia Donaldson. We are here to just have some kind of friendly conversation today. So first off, I'm just going to introduce a little bit about what we're doing, and then I'll let her talk for a minute. First, many of you have been following my journey for quite some time. Many of you might be a little bit newer to this journey, but I've pretty long been called to the videos, to sharing some of my experiences and some of the knowledge and wisdom that I've gathered over the years, and you know, learning and growing authentically in front of the world has been kind of a expansive experience for me, for sure. And I had a previous channel that many of you have followed me on. I've had hundreds of subscribers on my Luminous Body Mission of Love and Light channel. And this last few months I've been going through a pretty huge transition, which most of you know, which included the dissolving of a partnership. Now, the Luminous Body YouTube page was something that I had made, but that was at a juncture of my life that was a completely different chapter than the one that I'm in now. And while I've been trying to decide for a while whether or not I was going to just like revamp that by myself or whether I wanted to do something new, I've actually decided really officially that I'm starting a new YouTube page. It's going to be called Goddess Talks with Sophia. This will be the first video on it once I upload it. So even though you can't probably totally subscribe yet, I hope you guys will all follow me and subscribe at some point. And those of you, this will also be the last video. I'll upload this to the Luminous Body one. And those of you that are subscribers on there, if you want to go follow me on the new channel, that's going to be awesome. And part of what was validation, I was taking a little bit of a spiritual break for a while, just kind of hitting the emotional reset. And what was validation, I feel like, for me, that it's kind of time to start getting back into sharing some of these experiences and creating these videos and stuff again, is just that some of the conversations that I have with my friends, and tons of conversations with Casey, but in general, some of the best conversations I've had spiritually are just conversations among friends. That if you could be a fly on the wall, you'd learn so much. And I know that oftentimes I've had friends say, we should be recording this conversation. And that's literally exactly what happened with Casey. She says, we should be recording these conversations. And I sat and thought about it, and I said, you know what, I think that's kind of my validation. So Casey's probably going to be on with me very regularly, having these kinds of conversations. I'm sure I'll invite a lot of other friends, if that's something you'd be interested in as one of my friends. I'd love to do that as well. But Casey and I already are sitting here having conversations with each other on the regular and learning so much from them that we figure we might as well do that with you. That said, I want to take a second to talk to you about how gifted Casey is. She's a beautiful healer. She's just being in her presence, I can assure you, you'll probably feel it on here. She's an incredible healer, and she's studying QHHT and incredible at it. And so that's something that she's growing right now. But the primary thing that I want to focus on is that she's a freaking incredible DJ who is going to be DJing her first ecstatic dance set next weekend on Friday the 19th. And this is a women's ecstatic dance opportunity. So this is an opportunity for you women here in Salt Lake City or here in Utah to come and not only support her at her first event, but also to support yourselves, because it is such a self-supporting, self-loving experience to come to these women's dances. So I truly hope that you'll do yourself the gift, if you're here, of coming, if you're a lady. And for those of you who are not, if you just send your love and light to her, I know that it's going to be a huge honor. Someday down the road, you're going to want to say that you were at her very first show, because she's going to be a freaking huge deal. Okay, so anyway, now you get to take over.
Yeah.
Talk about yourself.
Cool, perfect. Well, I saw someone on here said, what is QHHT? So I'm just going to tap into that for a second. So QHHT is Quantum Healing Hypnosis Therapy. And it's done by Dolores Cannon. She's the one who came up with it, and it's absolutely incredible. It has it's a past life regression, and then from there it goes into speaking with your higher self or the subconscious mind. So from years 1 to 8, you were just receiving information, right?
All input.
Yep, all input. And then, and when you're in that state, your brain waves are actually slowed down. So you're in an alpha theta brainwave state through that whole 1 through 8 when you're receiving.
Right.
So in QHHT, you get down to the alpha theta brainwave state. And from there, you can hypnosis, right? Reprogram your mind with hypnosis. But from there, you're actually able to tap into your past lives. And then from there into your higher consciousness. It's awesome. It's amazing. You can look up YouTube videos.
Right. Well, one other great thing about it is it's often a way that doesn't feel... it's a way of releasing a lot of deep-seated pain, deep-rooted pain and trauma that oftentimes doesn't feel quite as terrifying as just diving into that consciously with your full conscious awareness. She's a great healer. She creates a safe space for you. And in order to really be able to get into a quantum state of mind anyway, you have to feel safe. So it's an indicator that you are in a place where you feel safe and open to potentially release some of those inner densities that might be holding you back. And then you can get into deeper states as well. So, like many other forms of healing, there's some initial groundwork that you can work through, and then the possibilities are really kind of vast and endless. Is that safe?
Yeah, it's
safe way
perfect explanation. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, we wanted to kind of focus more though on the ecstatic dance coming up.
We'll talk. She's going to be on a lot, and we'll talk about that a lot. But just because her ecstatic dance thing is next week, I really want her to talk about her DJing and that inspiration for a minute. Yeah.
So I've been going to ecstatic dances the last almost 3 years now, and my first one, I showed up and I was like, I don't know, this is super weird, because basically, if you don't know what ecstatic dance is, it's an all sober, all age dance event that happens during the day.
I bring Lucas. Yeah, I bring Lucas all the time. There's no alcohol. People are just.
There's even 80-year-old women getting down.
All ages. And the ecstatic aspect of it is that it's entirely dynamic. There's no rules. Every direction. You might see two people that are practically doing aerial dance together, while there's someone else in the corner that's just holding their heart or snapping their finger. There might be someone else that looks like a ballerina dancing all across the room, while somebody else is just literally meditating or standing there and just flowing for a second.
Or just laying on the ground or crawling.
It's
beautiful.
Entirely liberating and therapeutic in a way that's kind of hard to understand until you experience the liberating feeling.
Yeah.
So
it's so beautiful. And I've been traveling around the country. I've gone to a lot in California, Hawaii, Bali, Thailand. I even led at the ecstatic dance in Thailand for a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's a story she's going to have to tell me.
Yeah, it was so fun. And I have always had this obsession with collecting music. I used to skip class, Spanish class mostly, when I was in high school to just create playlists.
Right.
And so when I realized that DJing is really, a lot of it is the music, right? And,
right.
Creating the playlist, right? And so I had already kind of been doing that for a while. So I just picked up a controller and have been practicing, not for very long now, but I am just so inspired and so excited.
Thirsty.
I'm thirsty. I'm ready. I literally, when I create these sets sometimes, I'll do a smooth transition and I'll just start crying. Aww. Because I just it made me feel so good inside that I just know it will just translate out. Well, that's how you know
when you've found something that truly is a calling, because it makes you feel like you've found a sense of home.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Great. And time just flies by when I'm doing it too. Right. You sit down for, I was, 3 hours late to hanging out today because I was just in it.
That's funny.
And, but yeah, it's beautiful. So, on the 19th, if you are in Salt Lake City, this one is going to be, for women only. And
this one, she's also going to be we'll be doing blessing as you walk through the door. There's a cacao blessing at the very end, and just She'll be doing a hypnosis as well. So it trust me, as much as I may be asking you to come and support her, it is a self-supporting experience as a feminine woman to come and give yourself a gift like that. So I truly hope that those of you who can make it will come and support personally.
Yeah.
Now let's start talking about some of the other stuff. But
oh, and by the way, if you're, I don't know if anyone brings young kids to this, but like you can bring, if you have teenagers or whatever, and you can bring your younger kid, you just might have to, not be as present because you have to be kind of watching them.
Well, right.
So just wanted to throw that out there too. But
right, and it's, I love that about it, that it's all ages, and it feels like just such a fun, safe environment. Yeah. Lucas couldn't be happier than when he's there. He just feels very at home. So in any case, come and support her.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to kind of let her kick off because initially how this had started is, like I said, we were just having some great conversations. She's like, I wish that we could have this recorded. And she said we could just record things that we've already talked about or totally new conversations. So she hasn't told me at all what she's got in mind for us to discuss today, but I'm just going to kind of let her take it from here.
Yeah. Real quick, too, I wanted to say the reason I wanted to do this podcast is kind of selfish, actually, because I just wanted to listen back to things that you say, because I just love... So, first off, Anna does this really amazing thing where she carries stones with her and crystals, and she has people pick them out and lets them keep them, which is like the sweetest thing, because they do choose...
I'm going to grab my bag.
Yeah, grab one. Because they do choose you. Right? And you can speak more on that, but this is her little bag that she carries around. And for some reason right now we have some laying on the bed, and this one is calling out to me. Can you tell me about this?
Yes, this one is a carnelian. This one is a carnelian, and this is from my chakra set. And so this one is representative of the second chakra. And the second chakra is about creativity and definitely a divine inspiring flow of things. But typically the creativity that often gets associated with our second chakra is the creation that comes from sexual pleasure, is sexual creativity. And while that is extremely fun and it is meant to be explored, whether it's personally or with someone else or as an internal, you can still explore the advancement of sexual light through your body even when you're not having sex with anyone or doing anything with yourself personally except for meditation. That said, a huge aspect of the creativity that is coming from your second chakra doesn't necessarily have to do with the creativity of creating life as much as giving life to new imagination and new endeavors. So to be completely honest, I can't imagine a more perfect one to be standing out when you're just starting, not only to like dive into the thing that stood out to me, what you were just saying with the DJing. I know we weren't necessarily planning on still talking about that, but the thing that really stood out to me is that you're saying that as you were stepping into this, it's like you were already doing it. You've already been doing this since you were younger, and that's when you find, when I was telling you earlier, when I first found biofield magnetism, which is something that I can talk about more on another day, but it was like I found something I'd been researching my entire life from a bunch of different directions, but someone had already compiled it in one place. And that's what it's kind of like right now for you with the DJing. I know that you, first of all, it might be new as far as like stepping out into the world for your first time, but it's something that's been building up for a long time because you've kind of been creating this through a prismatic puzzle for a really long time. And then, you were talking about being with a mentor last night. Would you mind telling me the person's name who you said was helping you DJ class?
Evan.
Evan. Evan what?
We'll
call him out on here.
What's his last name? Anderson? I
can't remember. An incredible mentor for her. And
his DJ name is Evan. I think it's spelled EVE. something N. Yeah, sorry, Evan, I can't remember.
But in any case, he was giving her some pointers and things like that, and she was like, you know, there's times where she's feeling like she's welling up with tears, and they're having this really inspiring experience, and that shows you that there's a certain level of thirst. It's like you've found the right drink to quench your thirst. And when you find that, time flies, the experience goes by so rapidly, and you don't really want it to end. And typically when you have that experience, those that are in your vibration are also going to feel that same inspiration. And that is very second chakra. That is so, I mean, not to say that wouldn't include your heart and everything like that, but that when you're in that creative flow and that, for me, that would be like very much a second chakra moment, and a second chakra that's really highly activated and cleared and really in a beautiful flow, and not just like an overactive second chakra. Yeah, right. So I'm not at all surprised that that's the one that would speak out to you. Yes,
that's beautiful.
And I do this when I'm doing my oracle readings. One of the things that I do at the beginning is I always will pick a stone. I'll tune into a person's energy, and I pick a stone that sets the tone for the vibration of that reading. And it's really kind of incredible how vibration makes sure that the right stone jumps out at the right time. Can't tell you how many times when I've been out in public with someone and I pull out my stones, and people that aren't even into crystals at all, other than everyone loves pretty stones. People who don't think they're into crystals are into crystals once they have an opportunity to have one. Trust me. They're like, and men and women, they're like, yeah, I really do. I want one. But inevitably, almost every single time, they're like, how did it know? That's exactly what we were just talking about. I'm like, listen, it chose you. Like this vibration has a way of picking you out. So anyway, I think that was really beautiful. That's the stone that
that is beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So also I think it was last week, we were talking about how me and my partner got in that fight.
Okay.
And you were talking about the happiness scale. Right? The consciousness scale.
Are you talking about the bliss? The bliss sphere scale?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So. I just love hearing that explained, and I feel like other people would too. Okay. But I'll kind of go into it a little bit. I had me and my boyfriend had a little bit of tension in the morning. I can't even remember what it was because it was so silly. But he wouldn't talk to me. I'm trying to bug him and trying to be like, what?
We need to talk about this.
We need to talk about this now. And I'm totally heated. And I go in he's like, no, I'm not going to talk to you about it. And I go in the other room, and I'm just sitting there thinking of all these things, just rolling around, to go back out, try to get him to talk to me again. He wouldn't. And so I grab my DJ board, I go into my room, and I DJ for 8 hours. And I had the best, most creative day. Mm-hmm. And it was so beautiful. And then, of course, by the end of it, me and him were totally fine, and both had that experience.
Well, yeah, actually. You were saying he also his
had an amazing day.
Had a totally amazing day. So you guys had kind of this separate moment, and when you came back together, it was like, what were we even mad about?
Right. And we were almost like, wow, that fight was so good, because it made us go do our own thing. And I think it added some fuel, for that too.
Right, and there is certainly definitely a level of, in order to have actual stimulating growth, there has to be some kind of frictional energy, okay? But obviously when you get in a fight, and especially when you're getting into a fight with someone that you really, really love, there has to be an ebb and flow between communication and non-communication. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, obviously, you don't want to just shove everything down. You don't want to shove everything into your emotional bag and just pretend that it's not there. But you also want to make sure that, I don't know if I talked to you about this part, but the largest nerve in your body, and it actually runs a bunch of oxygen, I believe it's oxygen, up into your brain, is your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve runs from your heart to your brain. And when you are super angry and escalated above what I would call probably a level 6 on a scale from 1 to 10, and only you can know your scale, but above about a 6, the oxygen gets cut off from the vagus nerve to your brain. So you are literally incapable of thinking with your prefrontal cortex. You can only think with your limbic brain at that point, which is your most animal mind, which served a great purpose and even does serve a great purpose every so often, but not when you want your relationship to survive. So when you're thinking primarily with your limbic brain, it's probably a good idea to go at least get into a different vibration for a little while so that you can make sure that when you're communicating, not if you communicate, but when you do communicate, you're then communicating with your full brain. You're communicating with capacity to access your prefrontal cortex because you haven't cut off your vagus nerve. So,
that's really interesting.
There's one big thing right there. And I know I didn't get into that with you. I'm sorry. But what she was talking about is the fear bliss scale. And that is, there is a scale that has been, that's been discovered, and I want to say it was like in the early 1900s or something like that, but where they were able to start measuring the vibration of certain words, certain books, certain experiences, whole paragraphs, whole, what a different feeling has from compared to a different feeling. So on this scale, what is considered to be the highest possible vibration of positivity that you can reach is bliss, and that's like 1,000. That's 1,000 on the fear bliss scale. And then you've got, and keep in mind that most of these numbers I'm going to be taking a shot in the dark. It's been a long time since I've actually looked up these exact numbers, but unconditional love is like 970 on the scale from 0 to 1,000. And then you've got joy, which would be like 840 or something like that. I mean, just kind of taking random jumps down. And then you've got anger, which is like 170 on the scale. And then you've got guilt and shame, which are at like 20 on the scale.
Yeah.
I don't know if you calculated that yet in your mind, but what that essentially means is that guilt and shame are literally like 8 times more dense than the feeling of anger. Anger is a much healthier emotion for the release of things than going to guilt and shame. And quite frankly, in the attempt to release guilt and shame, people often can't go there, and they need a higher vibratory thing to be able to release and seep out that dense feeling. So even therapists will sometimes utilize this as a tool to help people to release certain feelings that they're struggling with in the density of shame and guilt. They'll actually purposely kind of poke and prod someone and make them a little bit angry and and purposely get them riled up that way so that they can start to seep out this density at a much safer vibration than taking them all the way down into guilt and shame. Where they're trying to release this guilt and shame. So what I was expressing to her is that it's really likely when you're in a partnership with someone, and especially when you're in a spiritual partnership with someone where you've both agreed that you are growing together. You're not just staying stagnant together. You are consciously, purposely, you've made a vocal promise to the universe that we are in this for the growth together to make each other better people. Yeah. Well, when that happens, what's going to happen is that your inner darkness is still going to get jostled. It's going to get jostled to the surface. But sometimes, like she said, in that particular case, she almost can't even remember what they were fighting about. It was so insignificant that, or maybe she could remember some of the details, but one way or the other, it's not very likely that whatever the tip of the iceberg was that day was actually the big iceberg underneath. Most likely there were a lot of underlying things, deep density things that were getting triggered by some stupid thing that was happening up here. Yeah. So it was really beautiful that naturally what happened is they kind of both triggered each other, but then they separated their space while they were not in a position to be thinking clearly with their full vagus nerve, with the full capacity for oxygen to feed their whole brain. And in that time, they both did constructive things that allowed for them to seep out. So they triggered, that's like they pulled off the scab so that they were able to actually get that wound to come to the surface. But then they both went into different spaces where they were able to safely seep out that energy without risking their relationship. Because ultimately, they're not just in it for the growth. They're in it for the growth together, which means staying together. So you don't want to risk the relationship for communication, but you also have to be aware that you can't just not communicate about it. Just make sure that when you're communicating about it, you've got your full brain involved in the equation. And I just was very inspired by the entire equation, because it felt like they very naturally and intuitively did something that was a process that was so incredibly healthy and healing for them, without even realizing, until I kind of put it in perspective for her afterwards, that was just such a beautiful and spiritual way to grow. And they probably released density of things they have no idea they even actually released that day.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of deep-seated things that were seeped out through that progressive energy that they don't even realize they're not going to have to work through again, because they were able to release them that day.
Yeah.
In such a beautiful and safe way. And and then now knowing this, if they find themselves in a similar situation in the future, that it might be even a little less friction, just enough friction for the creative growth, but they're like, okay, I can see what's happening here. You go your way, I'm going to go mine. Let's come back together in a few hours and see where this goes. And then you can utilize this kind of energy really, really wisely.
Yeah,
instead
it's
of just...
pretty crazy that the guilt shame is so low, and how many of us are always in guilt shame.
I mean, especially because most of us have been involved in some sort of religion or organization or group or family or something where guilt and shame were used as a primary form of...
And don't show anger. That's another thing.
Oh, and don't show anger. Yeah. So all of these things, because even anger is yeah. So basically, do exactly the opposite of everything you've ever been taught. Oh my gosh. So in any case,
speaking of everything you've ever been taught, what did you say? You were like, this is like, a brain orgasm.
A mindgasm.
A mindgasm. Yes. When I told her that, I love mindgasms.
They're honestly, just so anyone out there who would potentially like to know, I would much rather have a mindgasm than any other kind of gasm.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I can only get to an orgasm, if I have a mindgasm involved beforehand.
Nailed it.
Oh God, it's so sexy.
It's so sexy. Okay,
what was I going to say? Oh, I actually, this is kind of hilarious. But I wasn't grown. I didn't grow up religious at all. Like really, just free, believe whatever you want to believe. And so I didn't even know the story of Adam and Eve.
That was so great.
Really, I had no idea. I was talking to Tennyson, and I was like, what is the story of Adam and Eve? They're the first people on Earth, and then there was like some kind of fruit that happened, and he was just cracking up. He made me take a video of myself.
Oh my gosh,
but when I asked you, you were just so excited.
I was thrilled, especially because I could tell her like a bunch of different mythologies, but it was an opportunity to have someone who's never even been molded by it before. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like Michelangelo right now. Like I could literally tell you any one of the many, many mythologies there are. And there's lots of them, and I know which one resonates most.
And I've heard like 3 different stories now.
Right.
So I've been putting together
you're getting your prismatic explanation. And we may talk about that another time. I'm not going to make this like the longest video ever, but I love that's a good subject for another time. That seriously, I felt like an artist in that moment. Like I could take her any direction I wanted, but I did tell her the version of it that resonates most heavily with me. And
so great.
That was seriously thrilling for me.
I really had that much. I didn't have any like religious influence.
Right.
I actually even bought. I met some Mormons when I was about 16. I got thrown into a car, driven from Colorado to Utah in the middle of the night. And
sounds really terrifying.
I was 16, went to a wilderness program, which I ended up loving because I just hiked for like 3 months, but it was like a bad kid place. And
got it.
And where was I going with the story?
That was when you met Mormons for the first time.
Oh yeah, I bought Mormonism for Dummies.
Oh, so maybe you could just get a crash course.
Well, because I thought I wanted to be Mormon, because the people I met that were there were such incredible Mormons.
Well, there are some.
So
They're some of the most incredible people
really
in
are.
the entire world, and honestly,
And so, but then I started reading it, and I was like, can't masturbate. Okay, no, never mind. Oh no! All right, over.
I love you so much,
and I
Casey.
also like love tea, but I guess tea and coffee is now okay.
I think it's probably a little more open to interpretation, a little more open to interpretation. One way or the other, I will say some of the most incredible people that I've ever met in my entire life have been involved either in the LDS Church or in other organizations that are really
too,
like
actually.
They the only thing that's of concern for me is if you're involved in an organization where it creates a sense of peace for you and you feel loved and you feel safe there, then that is truly a safe place for you. That is your truth. And that is where you should be and where you find your resonance. But if you're there and there's a lot of fear and you feel a lot of shame and you feel a lot of I'm not good enough, or like you are earning love that if you are in a place where you feel like you are earning love that isn't already inherently yours, I would highly encourage you to seek either a different organization or just go inwards, because I promise you will find a completely different set of love, a completely different a different relationship with God than you can find if you feel that isolated somewhere else. But if you do feel your love and your peace and your safety within the walls of an organization, I would hope you would continue to support that and do that. That's not where I found my sense of worship to resonate the most personally.
And that's why we go to ecstatic dance.
Exactly. That's pretty much I find it the most. It is like worship for me. It really is.
Being able to just like close your eyes and have music,
which I literally will do for an hour straight. I'll be there for a couple of hours, and an hour straight of it I won't even.
Oh, and there's no talking, by the way.
Yeah, you can't talk, so
you're just in your own experience. It's so beautiful.
It really is.
I just love that feeling of being able to close my eyes and move my body, and just like, it's so spiritual. It really is. It really is. It's amazing.
All right, everyone, this is the first of many conversations the two of us will have. Many conversations I hope to have with more of my other friends on Goddess Talks. And hopefully you guys will find that you learn a lot in these conversations. If you're ever looking for an oracle reading, I'm probably not going to talk about them a ton on these particular videos, but I do want you to know if you're ever looking for one. I've got about a 1 week wait right now, but
they're amazing. I've gotten one.
Oh,
yeah, and they're so great. So I highly suggest it. She actually does a write out. So you get, it's not like it's beautiful, because then you have this whole write out that you get to keep and you get to listen to or read over and over again. Because a lot of times when I get oracle readings, I always forget to record them, and then I'm like, I wish I could remember them.
That's why I did it this way, is because I created something I would have wanted myself,
totally.
that I've wished I had many times. And it's really comprehensive. So if you want one, that's great. And if you feel so called, or if you feel like you're at all stagnant in your growth and you're wanting to find actionable ways to move forward, I'd love to help you with that. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you at Ecstatic Dance tonight, or
Friday the 19th.
Friday the 19th to support my beautiful friend Casey Ombaia Donaldson. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.